Get me in a good mood because this tariff thing is just driving me nuts. So it changes, doesn't it?
If you don't mind getting real close. Nice. Get SARM in there too, behind you. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
President Hubert, first day of SARM 120th convention here in Saskatoon. How's it feel to have all the municipal leaders after the last election together in one big giant room talking about municipal issues?
It's great. It really is. We've got a new cabinet. We've got a lot of new members on our board, and I think our staff has done a tremendous job at organizing this convention, and we're off to a great start. We really are.
One of the big announcements during Minister, I'm going to pronounce his last name wrong here, Schmalz, was about a new fiscal framework for municipalities and the freezing of property taxes this year in the provincial budget, which is tabled next week. That's a smart move from SARM's perspective?
Oh, certainly, yes. We lobbied hard many years ago on property taxes and education portion of it. So it's a great announcement. We're supportive of it.
I wanted to talk about derelict buildings, and I don't know if that's, I know
Yeah,
we went over
certainly.
that this morning, but can you sort of explain what the, because I think you mentioned like financial burdens of these derelict buildings for RMs. Can you kind of explain how that works, like what the problem is?
Well, in rural municipalities sometimes, and it doesn't happen, in all municipalities, some are more vulnerable to it than others, but we do get pieces of property that are vacated, and it goes into tax arrears, and municipalities have to take that particular property over. And usually there's abandoned farmyards and derelict buildings there that are a nuisance too, not only for the landscape to look at them, but also a safety thing for kids or people out playing in different areas in rural Saskatchewan. So the announcement from the ministry this morning on being able to use firefighters and volunteer fire departments to burn some of these derelict buildings and practice fire training, I think it's a great announcement. It doesn't help us financially, but it does take the biggest portion of that cleanup part away, because what you clean up later, just after the old basement is left, is virtually minimum to what the total cost would be.
And then with volunteer firefighters, I'm sure, they appreciate extra opportunities for training. Like some of them are, they're amateurs, they're volunteers, but I'm sure they can use training at times.
Yeah, certainly that's something they talked about, and they take their members are all volunteer, so they come out to help their communities in protecting property, and it's a dangerous profession and a dangerous thing to volunteer for, because they're doing training on a situation maybe other than this with real live fires that weren't set intentionally, that are there, and they put their lives at risk, and when they go into some of these buildings to try and fight fires. So I think it's the training part of it is great, where municipalities can work with fire departments to give their younger and their more inexperienced volunteer firefighters the opportunity to learn and train properly.
Just on that note, this morning the Volunteer Firefighters Association was talking about, and I asked them directly about the reduction in the size of the volunteer firefighter department. Is that a concern of SARM's, that the downsizing and the moving to more urban centers is causing some challenges for volunteer firefighters in more rural Saskatchewan?
Well, it certainly is. A lot of small communities, they have one truck, they have 4 or 5 or 6 volunteers, and that isn't enough sometimes. And a lot of the fires in Saskatchewan, especially in rural Saskatchewan, are rural. Stubble fires, grass fires, fires that are caused by traffic accidents, abandoned vehicles on the road. So, and it's tough to get these young people or any volunteers to step up and do that. And the funding is a big problem. They've got to update their equipment. We need newer fire trucks. And And it becomes a real challenge because it sometimes takes 10, 15, 20 minutes to get to some of these fires in rural parts of a municipality. So.
Well, this is a pilot project that was announced this morning by the two ministers and yourself. What's the game plan to roll this out all across Saskatchewan? Do you hope to see it by the end of the year, by the beginning of next fire season? Is there a timeline that SARM is working on?
Well, I would think that we should see some movement on this announcement with, by midsummer or something, and there should be some work being done with the local volunteer fire departments, and I'm quite optimistic by late summer, early fall, we should see some activity and some cooperation between municipalities and the local volunteer firefighters.
What do you want to hear from Premier Moe tomorrow?
Well, he's like a lot of others. He's in a tough spot. We've got some real challenges ahead of us, and I just talked to our delegates a few minutes ago and expressed our concerns as we need some direction from our members of what their wishes are, how we address this. We just heard minutes ago that Premier Ford has retracted the tariff on hydroelectricity going into the U.S. So that's. The bulliness and the fighting back, I don't think is going to work with President Trump. So Premier Moe we listened to his announcement last week on Thursday, and he closed the comments off basically by saying that maybe level heads and cool minds prevail, and we've got to take a more sensible business-like approach to this, and maybe we'll have more wins that way. And because I think pushing back against our American president Donald Trump, I think the more you push back, the harder he's going to push against us again. So that's something we need to hear from our members, what they want us to do, and we'll do our very, very best working with whoever it is, whether it's the provincial government, our members in rural municipalities, or if we happen to get lucky and have a new federal government in the weeks ahead, that would certainly be helpful. And we're here to do whatever, but right now, I'm not 100% convinced that pushing back on adding on more tariffs is the answer.
What, maybe this is a little out there, but what role can RMs play in this trade war, right? You follow that. Is there something, is it SARM has to make it so everybody's speaking with one voice, or are there RMs that can kind of lobby themselves at the provincial level?
Well, once we get a message in some direction from our municipalities and our members, then we can take a more active stance and work, with the federal government or with the provincial government and Premier Moe and his cabinet to address these issues. But we need to know what we want to do, and things change hourly. That's the concerning part. There's somebody countervails with another tariff, and Trump adds another one on, and it just goes back and forth. And then the announcement on Friday from China, that's as devastating as anything. 100% tariff on canola. First of all, we thought it was just on oil and peas and lentils, and 25% on pork. But then they went and changed it to seed. Well, if it would have been just on canola oil, 90% of our oil that's crushed in Saskatchewan goes to the U.S. But what do they do with the byproduct? That goes into the feed market, into California, Arizona, to the dairy industry, and they got to get rid of that stuff. And if there's no market down there for that, they're going to pay a tariff on it. It's going to slow crush down. So it's a bad situation with not them changing it to seed, and also oil was in before, and it all reflects back on the federal government putting that tariff on electric vehicles back in August. So.
Do you hear any people talking about maybe choosing not to grow canola this year or reduce their canola crops?
Yeah, it's big. This could kill the canola industry. I talked to Minister Merritt this morning for a few minutes. He's no longer agriculture minister, but he's Minister of Highways. He still has a farmland in Saskatchewan. And he talked to some officials from Cargill yesterday, and they have a boatload of peas ready to go for export to China, and the loss to Cargill on that for tariffs on that particular boatload of peas will be $11 million. So when you talk about canola, and it is our Cinderella crop is what I'm going to call it. That's the crop that's the most expensive to produce, to grow. It's the highest inputs, but it's sometimes if prices rally and are favorable and we have open markets around the world, whether it's China or the US or other smaller countries, that's the crop that we can make the most money, because it's all about profitability in farming. Our inflation has gone through the roof, and we need to have open markets, and we need to have somewhere where we can sell this at a fair market price. Canola could become vulnerable, and acreage could start decreasing. And I think it could happen very, very fast. But you know, it's so late already in the spring. How do we change our plans? Farmers are the best managers of our land base in the world. And they have rotations that they continually work with year after year. It's not a one-year plan, it's a 4 or 5 year plan, whether you're seeding pulses or cereal crops, oil seeds, and those rotations just can't be changed overnight. So it's a big concern. This could totally ruin the canola production in this province, in this country.
One of the big applause lines in your speech, in your opening remarks to the delegates this morning, was the removal of the carbon tax from all, from energy, heating, hydro, gas, everything. Just remove it, replace it, get rid of it, don't even bring it back, don't even talk about it. It was the biggest applause line throughout the speech. Prime Minister designate Mark Carney has said in his speech on Sunday that it will be removed. It will be removed, and he said it. It is out there. We have to wait and see. Are you optimistic that it will be removed, or are you thinking that's just lip service?
Well, it could be lip service. I don't know what's going through Carney's head right now. I really don't know. But he has a nickname, Carbon Tax Carney. I know if we get a change in government, the carbon tax will be gone, because that's the Poilievre's motto, axe the tax. But it has to go, because it's put us as agriculture producers in this province in a very, very uncompetitive, our disadvantage of profitability in our operations. It's a worthless tax. It's something that's unnecessary. It's hard on agriculture producers. It's hard on industry and business. And it's tough on consumers, too, in tough times like this with inflation as bad as it's been in the last couple of years.